Good morning. Welcome to our study this morning. We're continuing our series on the conscience, morality, and the spiritual life. And we'll continue with lessons 47 and 48 this morning. And we'll be looking primarily today at a review of the Enneagram Type 8, though we are going to review all of the types. Type 8 is the beginning of the next grouping in the Enneagram system, the 8, 9, and 1, which are the religious types. As we know them, the anger types as the Enneagram knows them, or the gut type, the instinctual type as the Enneagram knows them. So we'll continue with them, but first, since we've covered the 2, 3, and 4 of the approbation type, the 5, 6, and 7 of the power types, and are beginning a new grouping, we're going to go ahead and go back through and review all of the others that we've covered previously in brief. So it'll only take 3 to 4 hours today by doing it in brief. Let's begin with the moment of silent prayer, the opportunity to utilize 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So if you need to do so, please take the opportunity to confess any known sins to the Father at this time. Father, as we study this hour, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet together in freedom and peace. We pray for those around the world who do not have that opportunity. We pray for their spiritual momentum because of the persecution and dangers they face, so that they might grow in grace and knowledge of their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, in whose name we pray. Amen. 1 John 2:15, do not love the cosmic system or the things in the cosmic system. If anyone loves the cosmic system, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the cosmic system, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the cosmic system. And the cosmic system is passing away, and the lust of it, but he who does the will of God abides forever. Pardon me. HAM is my acronym for Happiness Attainment Motivators. These are built-in desires for various types of human happiness. Here's one of my reference books called The How of Happiness by Sonia Lyubomirsky. And her foreword begins, all of us want to be happy, even if we don't admit it openly or choose to cloak our desire in different words. Whether our dreams are about professional success, spiritual fulfillment, a sense of connection, a purpose in life, or love and sex, we covet those things because ultimately we believe they will make us happier. Everyone wants to be happy. If you ask everyone what they want, they may tell you that they want success, or they may tell you that they want love. But what it all boils down to is that is how they see that they can be happy. We've broken all of the various types of happiness motivators down into 6. Chemical happiness, the happiness that we get from drugs, food, exercise that creates endorphins, all of those kinds of things that will give us a sense of happiness because of the chemical stimulation we receive. Religious happiness, happiness that's attained by people being religious and basing their life on a belief system that they can adhere to try to make themselves happy. Approbation, the approval, respect, love of other people. Materialism, the things or money. Power, the ability to control our own circumstances or to be able to control the circumstances of others, all part of power as a means of happiness. And of course, the last one, sex. People who are motivated to happiness by sexual gratification in one form or another. These motivators are part of the genetic nature we inherit from our parents, their parents, and so on, all the way back to Adam, who started the process when he disobeyed God and ate the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This fruit genetically contaminated Adam to create what is commonly in biblical nomenclature known as the sin nature. However, the sin nature is really our human nature and is the source of the 6 happiness attainment motivators. Note that what Adam ate was called the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The first thing we notice is that it was a fruit, a food, something he ingested. This food, probably safe for all other creatures to eat, had some quality that affected the human cellular structure, producing the genetic mutation that became known as the sin nature, which immediately separated man, at that time Adam and Eve, of course, from God, as seen in their act of hiding, their very first act of hiding from God. The second fact that we see is that this mutation produced knowledge, a set of information to be added to the prior information base. We immediately learned that this information base caused a change in the way they viewed each other, and they knew they were naked. A sexual-related awareness that produced a conscience-violating awareness, a knowledge that they were unacceptable to God, and finally we note that this knowledge is both good and evil, not just evil, sinful acts as most people teach, but a goodness as well, as evidenced by their attempt to clothe themselves to become acceptable, the first religious act. Here's a viewpoint of this from the human viewpoint. We see from Erich Fromm in his book Psychoanalysis and Religion. Human history begins with man's act of disobedience, which is at the very same time the beginning of his freedom, and development of his reason. Erich Fromm has certainly identified that the truth of what happened at the fall of Adam and Eve. The first act of disobedience gave man freedom from God, freedom from the life that they had with God as represented in the Garden of Eden, a perfect environment, a perfect relationship with God. But man wanted to be free from that and wanted to go his own way. Going his own way is man's freedom, and it resulted in the 6 happiness attainment motivators and the development of his reason. All of the process of thinking we can see represented in the Genesis 2 story with Adam and Eve's first sin, the thinking processes that went on, their reasoning processes, and we'll look at that again. We have a few years ago, but we'll look at it again in light of our study today. We'll look at that, the current study, not today's study, but the current study. We'll look at that again and pick out the 6 hams of that original fall, the first time man disobeyed God and separated himself from him. This good is known to us today as morality, and this evil is known as immorality. Our topic in this study is the morality half of the sin nature, our human nature, and how each of these happiness attainment motivators has its own set of morals which we can identify as coming from the genetic mutation that separates us from God, so that we can reckon ourselves or consider ourselves to be dead to them in making our way in our spiritual walk. After grasping the fact that Christ died for our sins on the cross, the next most important doctrine we need to grasp is that he died to the sin nature, and we died to our sin nature with him. That is why we must be born again from above, receiving a spiritual nature to live in, so that we may abstain from the sinful nature desires, whether good or evil. Does not matter which. Good is not part of the spiritual life. Spirituality is the spiritual life. Good is an attempt by man to be happy. We have a balance. A teeter-totter of effect. And on one side we have evil, and the other side we have good. We can call this morality and this immorality. Some people find happiness by exploiting the good side of their human nature, while others find it in the evil side of their human nature. But both are living in that human nature and not in their spiritual nature that God has provided for us to provide joy for us. And the difference between joy and happiness is a momentary, fleeting, transient kind of feeling that we get. But joy is a constant. Joy is a constant no matter what the circumstances. You can be going through the absolute worst of circumstances and still have joy. But you can't have happiness if your circumstances are terrible. Because happiness is based on circumstances and how we react to them. So some people functioning in the evil half of their genetic sinful nature will commit crimes to gain happiness. They'll steal to get material wealth, for example. But if that same person then reforms, they turn good, they'll then work hard to gain everything that they want in life materially. But they're still functioning in their human nature, trying to be happy. And based on the number of books out there about happiness and how to get it, everyone is trying to be happy and failing to get happiness. In fact, one of the book that I'll write out of all of this someday, I think will be called the Happiness Deception, or the mirage of happiness, because people try to be happy, but it doesn't last. If you look at people who are rich, how happy are they? You see their stories in the newspapers and the magazines every day, that how miserable they are. If they have power, how miserable they are. If they have what we would consider to be sexual bliss with the most beautiful couple in the world with their sexual bliss, and they're miserable and they get divorced. There's all of these ways that we think will bring us happiness, but they're an illusion and they don't bring us anything lasting. We're going to go through next and review the approbation types. The Enneagram is a system of identifying mankind's approach to life and happiness. One of the hams found in the Enneagram is approbation, the desire for recognition, respect, honor, appreciation, love, caring, all of those things. And these are demonstrated in the Enneagram types 2, 3, and 4. The type 2 approach to life, and we all have all of these. The Enneagram identifies these as people, that you are a type. But as we know, when we took our type tests here in years ago, and we did a little bit this round, but years ago we looked at our types, and we found that we weren't just one type, that we were a combination of types. We had one that was dominant, that was our dominant approach to life that we take. The dominant approach to life that we take, that you'll see as we go through this review, you'll be able to see yourselves and say, oh, that's the basic way that I approach life, unless, of course, you're a 6, and then you say, no, that's not me, I'm not in there anywhere, because I'm not in there. But you'll be able to see your dominant approach, but you'll see that we all have, in various circumstances, one of these types of approaches to life in various situations. In various situations, we'll adopt one of these strategies. So the strategies for approbation types are the 2, 3, and 4. The 2 is the pleaser. He seeks approbation by making you indebted by giving and helping. They're the person who will do everything for you. They're the best of friends. They're wonderful, trying to do things for you, but they're doing it to get your love, to get your attention. The 3 is the overachiever approach to happiness, and they seek approbation by being the epitome of the ideal person of whatever culture they're in. If you're in a business culture like we have in America, they're attempting to be the true high success, the most successful of businessmen. You see it in other areas as well, and it differs in different societies. You may want to be the best suicide bomber in a culture, because that's the epitome of being the success in that culture. You might want to be the most beautiful, because that's the epitome of success in that culture that you're in. But whatever it is, the 3 always wants to be the very highest pinnacle of achievement. The 4 is the dramatic individualist. They're the one that seeks approbation by being unique and not being the epitome of the ideal. They know that they don't measure up to that standard, or they don't want to be that standard. They want to be their own person, and they want to be respected for being different than the usual successful, defined person in the culture. A second ham found in the 9 Enneagram descriptions is power. This desire for security ranges from concerns of personal safety to domination. The 5 approach is the observer. The 5 avoids power issues by avoiding interaction. They isolate themselves and live in their mind where they have enough power to control their existence. They don't want to get out with other people. They don't want to become involved in other situations because that represents danger to them and they're not in control. It's like letting someone else drive. Okay? You don't feel secure when somebody else is driving. You want to have that control kind of issue. Well, the 5 does it by keeping it all in their minds. They analyze everything and try to be safe in their own heads. The 6 is the doubting loyalist. They have a fear of being insufficient. They're having insufficient power over the circumstances of life. So they seek their security by being hypervigilant. They always wonder, what if? What if this happened? What if that happened? What would I do? And they have very expansive scenarios of any kind of danger that could be out there. And they already have a plan for it. I think I used the example from one of the authors that the person said, people commented when I was in the hospital at how well I handled it. And he said, but I'd been preparing for this my whole life, because they had the 6 approach is to imagine anything that can go wrong and how they would handle that situation. The 7 is the experience seeker. They seek the sense of power, or the avoidance of thinking about their lack of power, through an endless outside experience. They want stimulation, constantly to be stimulated with new things so that they don't have to think about their situation. They don't have to think about things that in which they might be powerless. So they try to avoid thinking. The final Enneagram ham is religion, the desire to relate to absolutes such as God or right and wrong. The 8 approach to this is called the challenger approach, and this is our topic for today. We'll get to after we do this review. The challenger, his religion seeks to correct wrongs as he sees them with power by bullying others. It's a combination of religion and power, and they bully people to try to get their way and get what they think is the right way to get things fixed. They avoid feeling weak. They deny being wrong. The 9 approach is the peacemaker approach. The first, the 8, as we'll see, is the omnipotent God type. They're going to force people to change. They're going to force what they consider to be right and wrong on others. The 9 is the peacemaker type religion. Everybody just needs to get along, and I don't want to rock the boat approach. So his religion seeks peace by avoiding conflict in dynamic situations. They're pleasant to be around, but they can be passive aggressive because they want their way, of course, because everyone does. But in order to try to cover up the fact they want their way, they try to do it through passive aggression. The 1 is the third of the religious types, called the perfectionist. This is the one that we should all be, of course. The 1 is the perfectionist. His religion seeks perfection internally and externally, sees imperfections and tries to right them, holds in anger, becomes tense, and next we'll review each of these types in a little more depth. The type 2 strategy exemplifies the desire to feel loved, to connect with others in a heartfelt way, and to be a source of benevolence and love in our world. 2s are easily the most people-oriented types of the Enneagram. They focus on relationship and feel best about themselves when they are meaningfully engaged with others. They want to share good in their lives and genuinely enjoy supporting others with their attention and care insofar as they can. 2s make good things happen for people. Insofar as they can, 2s make good things happen for people. They will stay up late to take care of children or older folks, drive across town to bring food, or see to it that others get medical treatment. We need these kinds of people. in our society, the helper kind of person. We need them. We need them. The problem is they're trying to find happiness in that, and as we go on, we'll see that that's not the source of happiness. When there is practical work to be done for others, healthy twos will be there, throwing themselves into the effort, heart and soul. Twos are genuinely interested in other people and in the details of their lives. They remember to send birthday and holiday cards long after their friends have moved away. They also remember your spouse's name and the names of your children and pets, plus who has which allergies and what their major was in college. They know everything and remember it so that they can be pleasing to you. Twos are the first in the kitchen after a party to help out with the cleanup. At the office, twos have a bowl of candy or a tin of cookies at their desk, not for themselves, but for anyone who drops by to chat. They are constantly thinking of others, and they try to do nice things so that others will think well of them. Twos get into difficulty, however, when they begin to attend to others' needs without adequately dealing with their own. They think that appreciation they get is enough, but they have to deal with their own needs, their own problem. They can get into denial about the extent of their own needs while insisting that their only concern is taking care of others. At such times, twos may develop boundary problems. They disregard their own boundaries, doing things for others that take them away from what they need to do for themselves, and they disregard the boundaries of others, doing things for others that they do not necessarily want done. They push. They become so helpful that they're pushy. And they do things that, no, just leave me alone. I don't want you to do that. When others feel crowded by the twos' efforts to help and try to set boundaries with them, twos can feel hurt and insecure about the relationship and feel rejected. When twos doubt that others want them, they redouble their efforts to win people over. They get caught up with people-pleasing and ingratiating themselves with others, looking for things to do and say that will make people like them. Relating with people becomes a full-time job. They are constantly making new friends while maintaining a network of old friends. Talking about the relationship with people becomes a habit, as twos continually seek reassurance that their friendships and love lives are secure and on track. They also begin to seek ways to make themselves more interesting and useful to others. Thus, they may pursue such interests as massage, psychic readings, energetic healing, nutrition, and other ways of being of service as a way of making people feel good about themselves and about having the two in their life. They want to have a unique place in others' lives and to know privileged information about others that no one else knows. They want others to regard them as their best friend and to seek them out for personal advice and to share special secrets and intimacies. They may begin to wear themselves out for others, giving unwanted advice and assistance, and becoming martyrs to get attention and affection. When twos go too far with this kind of behavior, however, it ironically has the opposite effect on people, driving them away rather than creating stronger relationships. The type 3 strategy. These are, again, approbation strategies, wanting approval, love, respect, admiration, whatever. And we all have this in us to some degree. These three types in the Enneagram, it's the overwhelming drive in their lives. And but we can pick up little bits and pieces of it that we see in our lives if we're not one of these types. Type 3 exemplifies our desire to be our best self, to develop all of our potentials, and to value ourselves and others. Threes are the stars of the personality types, people of tremendous drive, ambition, and belief in themselves. Threes want to excel, to be the best at whatever they do, and they are willing to put in the effort it takes to do so. Threes can be found at the gym, taking classes at night, putting in extra hours at work, learning how to coordinate their best colors when they dress, basically doing what it takes to shine. While threes are energetic and ambitious, they are also diplomatic. They want to be liked and esteemed by others. They strive to be presentable and appropriate, not wanting to come across in ways that would be disapproved of. They know how to put their best foot forward and present themselves in a way that highlights their energy and confidence. Threes are, above all, goal-oriented. They get a particular objective in their sights and then actively engage in activities that will bring them closer to whatever they seek. They pursue their dreams tirelessly and can't understand why others are not similarly motivated. Thus, threes also enjoy sharing self-development tips, explaining how to make money, lose weight, develop career skills, and so forth. Whatever their area is, they're happy to share those self-development tips. They are hard workers, diligent and effective, and they like helping others to be that way too. The type 3, to achieve their goal of obtaining admiration, threes learn to be highly adaptable. They are able to change course when necessary and may even do so several times, including a change of career if that's what it takes. They may try different approaches to problems until they find a formula that seems the most effective. Similarly, threes quickly adapt to different social settings, always wanting to be appropriate and to exemplify the values of whatever group they are in. While their adaptability can be an enormous asset, it can also be overdone, leaving threes unsure of who they are or what their own deepest values are. In all of their dealings, threes value efficiency and effectiveness, and they are often prized by businesses for these values. They are extremely goal-driven, and once they are given a task to perform, will do their best to make sure that it's done quickly and as efficiently as possible. The problem is that threes can be efficient to a fault, becoming accomplishment machines, brushing their real feelings and needs aside to get the job done. This way of living can leave threes feeling empty and emotionally isolated, despite the successes they may be having. And of course, you've seen many movies about this, and you see it realized in the lives of people in the news, in the media. You'll see these kinds of people all the time, and of course, you know them in your personal lives as well. Problems arise because threes learned in childhood that they are only valuable for their accomplishments and self-presentation. They believe that they will only be loved if they become extraordinary in some field of endeavor. So it's very important as parents that we not teach them this strategy, that we value them for who they are rather than what they accomplish and how they present themselves. Very difficult to do, as you're always, the tendency is to reward them for accomplishments and to encourage them in that area, but you have to balance that with the fact that it's them that you appreciate, not their accomplishments. They believe that they will only be loved if they become extraordinary in some field of endeavor. Thus, the pressure to be outstanding in whatever they do is intense and draining. You see a lot of that today in suicide, the suicide rate of young people, that they have this drive to be the best at what they are, and they're highly motivated kids in school. They're great students, and one day they take their own lives. And people can't understand why. They were such a wonderful student. They got straight A's. They were the captain of the cheerleaders. They were the president of the beta club. They were all of these things. They had everything going for them. Why did they commit suicide? Why did they? Because they were attempting to obtain happiness in this way, and they realized that it wasn't creating happiness for them, and they became so frustrated that they didn't see any way out. They didn't have an alternative. Even if they are not working at a career and are primarily keeping a home, the three will strive to have the most outstanding home in their neighborhood and to be super mom or super dad. Threes find it difficult to stop or rest when they are caught up in their drive for success. They believe that to do so would risk failure, and most threes would rather die than fail and risk being humiliated. And that's what happens so often with these kids. They see failure coming in some way, that they would be humiliated and they can't accept it, so they would rather die. Their drive for success can also create conflicts with their personal or family life. Similarly, intimacy issues are not uncommon. When threes push themselves too hard and are unable to deliver everything that they would like to, they may resort to presenting successful images to others rather than letting people know their actual state or emotional condition. These are the people that can become very phony, making you think they are successful when they are not. They attempt to convince others and themselves that they have no problems and that they're doing great, even though they may feel depressed or even burnt out. They believe that they can fake it until they make it. But if threes do not slow down to deal with their emotional problems, sooner or later a crash is inevitable. Type 4 exemplifies the desire to be ourselves, to be known for who we are, and to know the depths of our heart. Of all the types, 4s are the most aware of their own emotional states. They notice when they feel upset, anxious, attracted to another person, or some other more subtle combination of feelings. They pay attention to their different changing emotions and try to determine what their feelings are telling them about themselves, others, and the world. When 4s are more in balance, their exquisite attunement to their inner states enables them to discover deep truths about human nature, to bear compassionate witness to the suffering of others, or to be profoundly honest with themselves about their own motives. When they are less balanced, they can become lost in their feelings, preoccupied with emotional reactions, memories, and fantasies, both negative and positive. 4s are nothing if not subtle and expressive, and they are able to put words to feelings and states that others may recognize but would not have expressed so eloquently. Things like, that poem exactly captures how I felt about leaving home. Now, we might say, that's a great poem. But they have this eloquent way of establishing a relationship between it and their own lives. By being emotionally honest and by taking time to see what they really feel about things, they encourage others to look more deeply into themselves. 4s are also people who care a great deal about beauty and taste. Many 4s, for instance, are involved in artistic pursuits. Even if they're not artistically creative themselves, 4s seek out art, poetry, music, and other expressions that they find beautiful because they feel these things reveal something true about themselves and about human nature. 4s often dress in ways that accentuate their own sense of personal style, but also in ways that symbolically let others know that what they are feeling, how they're feeling, dressing entirely in black or in shades of violet, for instance. Their clothing is an expression of themselves. Similarly, they typically decorate their homes with objects and colors that evoke a strong sense of image and mood and reflect personal feelings and associations. Above all, 4s want to distinguish themselves from others. They want to feel that their taste, their self-expression, and their emotional depth are unique. They want to be unique. Thus, they tend to emphasize all of the ways in which they are unlike other people, especially their own family. They deeply want to know who they are, and that who they are is special in some way. They want to be seen as special. That's their means of getting your approval, your respect, your interest in them is by being unique. Being complimented or told that they are loved is nice, of course, but what 4s really want is for others to recognize and appreciate the pattern of qualities that is unique to them, that they are not generic. They're not like everybody else. Because of their powerful need to see themselves as different from others, 4s often end up feeling alone and misunderstood. They become creative outsiders, and they are proud of it. If they are working in a regular 9-to-5 job, they will find ways to put their unique stamp on their work. This can run the gamut from finding their own way of presenting reports, to having a recognizable design style, to decorating their office in a way that reflects their tastes and feelings. They're the one that their office or their cubicle is all decorated with different kind of things. They have to be different. Everything has to be different. Their car will be the one that has some kind of unique design about it. It's got to be a different kind of a car in the first place. They don't want just any kind of car. It has to have something special about it that's different than all the other cars. Or they'll decorate it in some way. They're the kind of people that will have bumper stickers all over their entire car, or decorate their car in bottle caps, or paint things on it and so on. There has to be an artistic expression of some way that they're different. They may run their own company as long as there's a creative component to their work and it's emotionally satisfying, or they may be in a profession that makes use of their personal touch, such as a clothing designer, a counselor, a therapist, an interior decorator. All of these kind of people are very often 4s. 4s are often professional artists, writers, or teachers. Above all, 4s want their life to be a work of art. They want to achieve something beautiful despite the loneliness, suffering, and self-doubt they have so often felt. Unfortunately, the four's need to be different can also lead to alienation and a tendency to become engrossed in feelings of loss, sadness, and melancholy. All 9 types can feel sad, lonely, or depressed, but 4s feel this way frequently, even when there is nothing in their current lives to cause such feelings. They're the ones who will remember something from the past if there's nothing right now to make them feel lonely or depressed. They'll have to remember something because they feel so different and unique, and that you should respect them and appreciate them and care for them and love them because they are depressed or they are melancholy about things in their lives. They often become convinced that these painful things are more real and authentic when compared to more passing feelings of happiness or enthusiasm. Indeed, 4s begin to feel that they are being the most real, most honest people because they are focusing on disappointment and sadness. See, they don't get happiness from happiness. They get happiness from sadness because that reinforces their self-image, their self-concept that they are different and not like you or I. You or me. Ultimately, this can lead them to foster and prolong these painful feelings in themselves. Now let's go with the type 5 strategy. Type 5 exemplifies the human desire to understand, to look beneath the surface of things, and to arrive at deeper insights about reality. Remember, the 2, 3, and 4 are about approbation, approval, love, respect, admiration, whatever kind of feeling of approbation that they can get. The 5 is the beginning of the 5, 6, 7 strategies about power and security and control. Type 5 exemplifies the human desire to understand, to look beneath the surface of things, and to arrive at deeper insights about reality. That way they feel they can control their environment so that they don't have to deal with the fear that they have. 5s prefer the life of the mind, both as a way of understanding the world and, given the unlimited power of imagination, as a way of escaping from aspects of reality. It would not be far-fetched to say that for many 5s, the inner world of the mind and the imagination is more real and vivid than their external world. 5s tend to have an experience and then spend many hours, days, even years understanding it and its broader context. They really want to analyze everything. 5s are truly the most independent and idiosyncratic of the personality types, the people who could most appropriately be called loners and misfits. They are people who truly march to a different drummer, pursuing their interests and curiosity wherever their investigations may take them. They always want to know more. Some 5s can seem downright odd to people, while others keep their weirdness more below the surface. In either case, 5s are intensely determined to pursue the questions and ideas that fascinate them, so much so that relationships and financial considerations can become unimportant to them. This is you'll see them at places like the coffee shops. They'll be disheveled in dress. Their clothes don't match. Their hair's probably not combed, and they're carrying a stack of books, and or they're reading a book while they're munching on their lunch or drinking their coffee. They don't care about other things. They just want to be engrossed in their own thoughts and their own minds and trying to gain more information about themselves and about the world around them so that they can feel secure and not threatened. These qualities result from an extraordinary ability to focus their attention. 5s will stay with a problem or a question that fascinates them until it's solved or until they discover that it is unsolvable. Boredom is unimaginable to them because there are so many fascinating things to explore, understand, and imagine. The downside is that their capacity for concentration enables them to get deeply engrossed in their complex inner worlds, sometimes to the extent that they forget their surroundings or even to take care of themselves. There's that image that I gave you. They forget their surroundings, they forget to take care of themselves. Thus, 5s can get involved in work, reading, or in their own thoughts in such depth that they are often late for meetings or don't hear phone calls. They forget to eat or to take adequate care of themselves physically. They will live on soda and candy bars or stay up all night writing a story or trying to solve an interesting problem. They will pore over the computer terminal for hours or disappear into the stacks of the local library, only to emerge 5 minutes before closing with an armload of books as they head to the nearest coffee shop to continue reading. But this doesn't mean that fives always want to be alone or that they can't be excellent company when they are with others. When fives find someone else whose intelligence and interest they respect, notice the intelligence and interest, they are invariably talkative and sociable. Now, it's one of our other authors that we covered before said that the perfect life for a five would be to be the editor of a highly intellectual newsletter that only went out to 25 people in the whole world. That they would be they would have that respect and of the other people in that small select group of like-minded intelligentsia. Fives love to share their insights and expertise with just about anyone who appreciates what they have to say. They also enjoy sharing their findings with others, and their observations of life's contradictions and absurdities are often served up with a whimsical sense of humor. Fives can be the most enriching of friends since they are a treasure trove of information, speculation, opinions, and intensely felt ideas. But they can also be the most impenetrable of enigmas, a mind bristling with energy and intelligence that signals, "Stay away, leave me alone to follow my thoughts wherever they may lead." Fives are the kind of people others usually find strange, quirky, and intriguing. They always have more going on than meets the eye. The absent-minded professor is a good illustration of a five. The type 6 strategy. Type 6 exemplifies the desire to create a stable, safe environment, to cooperate and create with others, and to be adequately prepared for various difficulties that life presents. Sixes are meticulous, disciplined, and persevering. They're good with details, and they have a talent for seeing potential problems and dealing with them before the problems get out of hand. They organize resources, prioritize tasks, and see projects through. Sixes are not necessarily group people, but they like the feeling of belonging somewhere, of being part of something greater than themselves. The six gets its sense of security by belonging to a group. But belonging to a group is scary because that then allows others to have influence on your life. So they're a little bit afraid of that too. That's why they're called the skeptic in some books. They want to belong to a group, support a cause because they feel that that gives them security. But if anything goes wrong, they'll jump ship and return back to themselves again. They're not a group people, but they like to belong. They enjoy being of service and really want to contribute to the world. They bring reliability, responsibility, hard work, and a sense of honor to all their affairs. They approach others as if to say, "I am here for you, you can count on me." Sixes do their best to be solid and responsible, but they are often troubled by an undercurrent of doubt and anxiety. In fact, sixes often seem a bit jittery and uneasy in general. They live in a state of worry and then find something to worry about. They often scan their surroundings for problems, expecting that something negative could happen at any time. Consequently, they are usually careful about the management of their affairs and generally cautious in their dealings with others. At the same time, they are always on the lookout for someone they can trust, someone they can rely on, because it takes them a while to feel confident that someone is truly on their side. Sixes will sometimes test people by provoking them in some ways to see how they'll react. Once they have decided that someone has passed the test, there is almost no limit to their loyalty or to the sacrifices that sixes will make for the sake of that trusted person and the cause that they represent. Sixes know that once they make a commitment, they do so 110%. They find it difficult to leave a relationship once they have begun to trust someone and to rely on them. Thus, they want to be sure that they are putting their energies into someone who will be there for them consistently. Once they have established a solid relationship, They show their trust and affection by supporting the other person in every way they can, especially by being reliable and trustworthy themselves. One sign that sixes have issues with trust is that they approach others with a sincere but cautious friendliness. When sixes are relaxed, they have a natural talent for engaging people and for finding common interests. They often get others to like them by joking around and bantering and through other forms of physical and social bonding. They want to find things about people that are familiar, that they can relate to, looking for common interests and experiences that would be the basis of trust. They tend to get nervous in situations in which they do not know where others stand, where there are too many unknowns, too many unfamiliar elements. They're the people that can ride all the way across country and never say a word. And once they get to know you, they talk and talk and talk. Okay? Fundamentally, sixes are looking for someone to trust because they do not really trust themselves. They do not have much faith in themselves and their own abilities. See, they feel insecure, lack of power to control their own lives. So they look outside themselves to a person, a job, an authority figure, or a belief system of some sort for guidance and security. This doesn't solve their insecurity in the long run, however, because the more sixes rely on others for their confidence, the more self-doubting and insecure they become. They will keep bouncing back and forth between depending on others and trying to prove that they are tough and independent themselves. Some sixes tend to collapse into their anxiety more often, feeling fearful, anxious, dependent, and openly seeking support from others. These are called the phobic sixes. Other sixes are more apt to impulsively leap into activities connected with their fears, such as a person with a fear of heights who decides to take up rock climbing. They attack their fears to try to give them that sense of power over their own lives. Or a person who fears authority figures becoming a spokesperson for an anti-establishment group. These are called counterphobic sixes. In truth, all sixes have both phobic and counterphobic aspects, and they express their different responses in different areas of their lives. A six may be phobic around her boss, for instance, but behave counterphobically with her spouse. The Type 7 strategy. Type 7 exemplifies the desire for freedom and variety and for exploring the many rich experiences that life has to offer. Thus, sevens are probably the most enthusiastic, extroverted, and outgoing type of the Enneagram. They are spontaneous and upbeat. They find life exhilarating. They are the kind of people who make ordinary life into a celebration. They're just always excited and happy to be there. Sevens like to fill up their calendar with things to do. After work, a quick drink, then off to dinner and the theater, then after that a nightcap before getting home at 2 a.m. The next night may bring a symphony, a ball game, or singing in the local choir, or a visit to a new restaurant. They always want something exciting in their lives. They need to have things to stimulate them. Okay? And that's because they're afraid. They don't have power over their own existence. They're afraid, so they want things to keep them busy so that they don't ever have to sit still and worry about what they can't handle. Sevens who do not live in large cities or do not have enough money for that diverse a lifestyle might have to do with less lavishness, but they will always be busy. They still seek variety and a constant experience, whether it's going to a mall, out to a movie, talking on the phone with friends, hanging out in the bar, leafing through magazines, or daydreaming about a vacation. Sevens do their best to stay up with what's new, and so their wide-ranging experience makes them a resource for others too. They know which Italian restaurant, which cognac, which jeweler is the best. They know what new movies are worth seeing and what the latest news and trends are. They put a lot of effort into life, into the activities of life. Healthy sevens, however, know that life is most satisfying when they keep their feet on the ground and work within constraints. Their enthusiasm and versatility can make them productive and practical, highly creative and prolific, cross-fertilizing their many areas of interest and skills. They can be highly accomplished Renaissance people, gifted with virtuosic talents and prodigious skills. If they suffer a setback or disappointment, sevens bounce back with resilience and renewed energy. Very little keeps them down for long. They can't be down. They have to be up. They have to be up. When they're down, they're very vulnerable to drugs or other kinds of problems because they need stimulation. 7s want to try everything at least twice. Once to see what it is like, and the second time to see if they liked it the first time. Of course, 7s want their experiences to be as much fun and as enjoyable as possible, although strictly speaking, that is not always essential. What is important to 7s is being free, having options, and creating more possibilities for their future. 7s' minds are restless and filled with ideas and plans for activities to look forward to. They anticipate the future, virtually licking their lips as they foresee the delicious possibilities that await them. But 7s do not just think about the future, they get out there and actually make it happen. They live their dreams by throwing themselves into action and putting their plans in motion. With their energy and enthusiasm, they get things going. However, as their restlessness increases and they begin to fear missing out on other pleasures and experiences, average 7s become less discriminate about the experiences they pursue. They begin to lose a sense of priorities and become hyperactive, throwing themselves into constant activity, into endless busyness. They easily feel trapped or deprived, and this makes it difficult to say no to themselves or to deny themselves anything. While this might seem like freedom to them, it's a kind of person that makes it increasingly difficult for them to find satisfaction in what they are doing. So they will go further and further and further for experience, and that's when they'll get involved in drugs or very dangerous activities. They begin to believe that freedom is having no restrictions or responsibilities. But this is a false freedom, and it eventually brings them greater unhappiness. As this occurs, 7s begin to flee from their inner anxieties by engaging in more distractions and activities. They expect that they and their lives should be exciting and dazzling all the time. Increasingly uninhibited, they grab attention and discharge anxiety with storytelling, joking around, exaggeration, and wisecracking. Others may find this behavior amusing and irreverently entertaining for a while, but for most people, even other 7s, scattered energy eventually becomes tiresome. This only frustrates average 7s, and unless others are willing to keep up with them for better or worse, the 7 moves on to greener pastures. Often this leads to a dissipation of their energy and a loss of focus. While 7s are often brilliant, once in flight from themselves, they often fail to actualize their many talents or live up to their potential. The happiness attainment motivator in the lives of the 8, 9, and 1 is religion. This religion might be a named religious belief system, an alternative to traditional religions such as atheism or philosophy, or something they would never identify as religion at all, such as psychology or science, or even their own invented philosophy of life. No matter what it is, these people, the 8, 9, and 1, are motivated by their beliefs. They have very strong beliefs. Center 8, 9, and 1 is referred to as the instinctive or gut center. They know what's right. They know what they believe. They know that it's true. The predominant motive in the lives of this group is religion, and anger is their primary emotional sin. The anger is expressed differently in all 3 cases, but anger it is. An angry 8 blocks out thinking or thinks in caricatures. A compulsive 1 tends to see black and white only, and 9s are passive aggressive. This group has a different approach than thinkers. The 5, 6, 7 group are thinkers or anti-thinkers. This group has an intuitive gut feeling way of making their way through life. They know what is right and wrong, what is fair and unfair, and what is okay. And they have a strategy for handling life. The 8's religious attention is accomplished by power and control, to making things happen, to protecting the weak, and to fighting injustice. With an intense, authoritative, and sometimes explosive energy, they are usually ready to face any challenge. They know what is right and wrong, fair and unfair. They are the justice people of the Enneagram. Their religion is about justice, fairness, righteousness, all of those things. The 9's religious attention goes to connecting with others, maintaining harmony and peace and comfort, and avoiding conflict. They typically avoid direct confrontation, but choose to work to bring conciliation. But if angered, and they are angry a lot, they are passive-aggressive and conspire behind the back of their foe. The one's religious attention is righteousness, perfection, and goes to noticing and correcting errors, to identifying and adhering to standards of perfection in thought, feeling, and behavior, to acting according to what is right or wrong, and to expressing their anger by judging and criticizing oneself and others. Next hour, we'll look at the 8 in depth for 1 hour so that we can see what the 8 strategy of life is all about. So let's close with a word of prayer. Please pray with me. Father, we're grateful for this hour. We're grateful for the insights that we can see in our nature so that we can understand when we are functioning out of a fear of a lack of power, or that we're functioning in approbation, that we want others to care for us, to love us, to respect us, to admire us, when we're trying to find happiness in all the wrong places, when we can find true joy in you. We thank you that you have provided the means of joy in your reservoir of righteousness, that you have given us everything we need in this world for life and godliness. We thank you in Jesus' name.